3 or 4.
3 A's and a couple of exclamation points.
Yeah.
Blarg!
It's the sound
That's the
monsters
drinking
make.
word. Spoiled word. I mean.
Right, it's one of Godzilla's enemies.
Godzilla versus Blarg.
Oh my god, I can't believe I told you that.
I think you're
Welcome,
just full of shit.
welcome to another edition of the Spoiler Room. Here it is May 18th, I do believe. And we are going to talk tonight about Carrie. It is one of our special series that we have going on all year long where we're celebrating films from 1976 that people voted on and they wanted to hear us talk about. And so Carrie happened to be one of them. And tonight I've got a spoiler room filled of folks just ready to plug it up with Carrie information and fun. First off, he is back once again, the man, the myth, the lovely Andrew Shearer. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me on this show. Um, I'm sorry about the doo-doo stories I was telling.
That's quite all right.
It just kind of came out.
Oh!
They weren't about me, ladies and gentlemen. They're about someone else.
And next to the lovely Andrew Shearer is the Bowtie Man. Paul Salzar is back with us in the house. Paul, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad you could be here. And we have a new voice, a special guest voice in the room tonight. You may have heard her lovely pipes on Astro Radio Z, and she has come here to the spoiler room. And she hopefully won't get too scared here tonight, though she's been on Derek's podcast, so I don't think we'll be able to scare her this evening. It's the one, the only, Angelique. Hello, Angelique. How are you?
Hello, Mark. I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad we could have you in here tonight to talk about Carrie, the film based off of the classic Stephen King novel, and this is a classic horror film about Carrie White, a shy and outcast 17-year-old girl who is sheltered by her domineering religious mother, and she unleashes her telekinetic powers after being humiliated by her classmates at her senior prom. But things actually start get rolling before the senior prom. And the first thing I want to talk about tonight is first just De Palma, Brian De Palma. Now this was I think his first big commercial film, wasn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge hit movie for him, man. I mean, around that time, like the casting for Carrie was happening at the same time the casting for Star Wars was happening, if that gives you any idea of the time period that this was going on. And I think as the stories go, the people that were getting cast in, that were reading for both didn't know which film they were going to end up in at the auditions. It was like a dual audition process.
Yeah, I was watching on the DVD, behind the scenes, one of the documentaries they had on the DVD, and that was, yeah, they were talking about how De Palma apparently sat in the corner while Lucas had the people read, and William Catt, a.k.a. Greatest American Hero, actually came in to read for Luke Skywalker.
Wow, what
And
a movie that would have been.
that would have been an interesting film with him, as I think he could pull it off.
Yeah.
But instead, he got cast as Tommy Ross, the boyfriend of Sue Snell, played by Amy Irving, who are a group, two people who kind of take pity on Carrie, who was played brilliantly by Sissy Spacek. De Palma, the way he opens this film, Paul, I mean, he starts off. I don't think I've seen a film that immediately gives you sympathy for the main character as quickly as he does here. Can you think of one?
I honestly no. I mean, what better way to start a film about like a teenage female, other than with that scene, the menstruation scene.
Yeah,
Which is,
I mean, they start off with the volleyball scene where they're playing, and she's already getting picked on there.
mm-hmm.
And then you go into the shower scene, and that shower scene,
It's powerful.
it's powerful, but Angelique, I as a male, I have to say I found the shower scene a bit awkward.
It was a little too sexy, I think. I've been in many a locker room, and let me tell you, there's none of that soft focus
We got the lovely a number of nude ladies who at this point the actresses are all 18 or older, but they're playing some characters that
Teenagers.
are teenagers. And here we take it's a horror film, and we have this soft focus, kind of beautiful, melodic, rather
Well,
sensual
they're
opening.
nymphs. Every one of them, a nymph.
Yeah. It's the 70s. What would you expect?
Well, I know. I mean, and we covered to the devil a daughter in
Oh
on a
God.
past a big 4-0 special prior, and yeah, 70s and the age of their female actresses who get naked was a little bit of a gray area. But I think it sets it up though because does this feel, Andrew? Does this feel like this is Carrie first time kind of discovering her body,
Yeah,
or
yeah, I think so, man. I mean, it's a great kind of like switch that De Palma does, and kind of like a cool like foreshadowing to the way they do the ending because they have some more like soft focus and magical music and stuff like that before they give you the blood again, and so I thought it was a cool way to kind of do that. It's just, it shows the cruelty. I mean,
Mhm.
Carrie is a story about just how awful um, kids are to each other, and how horrible high school really is, and it does not pull any punches at all with that stuff. And I think the cinematic way that they do it is just a way to make the dynamics work. The blood wouldn't have had the punch that it did if the scene before it had been really kind of matter of fact.
Hmm.
That's true. If it wasn't quite so central and soft focus, you probably wouldn't have had that effect. And also, it leads on to later with her very religious mother who talks about sin. Because in that scene where Carrie has her period in the shower, she's kind of really enjoying soaping her body down. And it makes you wonder, is she having that sinful thought and that's what triggered the period? I mean, in her mom's mind, maybe? Uh, I don't know. Am I off on that, Angelique? Or
Um, Not really. I kind of felt the same thing, like the way she was soaping herself. And coming, I'm a huge fan of the book. It was the first one I ever read. Of course, it was his first published.
Mhm.
Um, she was very blah and dumpy, but in the movie, Sissy Spacek gives this innocence about it. That she's like, wait a minute, this isn't so bad. I'm not dying. And then all of a sudden, goosh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get the feel she doesn't have that close family to begin with, so I imagine she's lacking in human touch. Is the feeling I almost get, you know.
Yeah, she's
So
flesh hungry. That's
she flesh hungry. That's yeah, in a way, yeah, I guess she would be kind of, and then yeah, she has that. What I imagine, and I'm just a guy, so I'm going. Imagine is probably a bit of a scary and traumatic moment, especially if you haven't been told about the way the female body works, and then that bullying scene is brutal.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean that bullying scene really, Angelique, if that would have happened to you, would that cause some serious trauma?
I mean, I might have developed telekinetic powers. I don't know. I mean, it's terrifying because, I mean, that right there, part of the thing, especially when you're young and you're being taught about your body is hide it, hide it. This is secret. This is gross and dirty, and no one needs to know about it. So your number one fear is for someone to look at you and go, period. So, I mean, being pelted with pads and tampons and all of these women just gleefully hating you because you're bleeding and you don't, well, she didn't know why, but you can't help it. You don't control this, and oh, Jesus, help.
Yeah, I mean that scene, and I mean that's within the first 5 minutes of this film. I mean, De Palma really doesn't give you a chance to breathe in this film. as far as what happens to her, or I should say, give Carrie a chance to breathe, really, in this film, because she just goes from one really kind of bad moment to the other until prom is the way it feels almost. I mean, even she doesn't even get support from. Come on, Andrew, that gym teacher. Just how supportive was she actually being? Does it feel like she was kind of going through the motions, or rather
She,
than be?
she had no idea, man. Not really. She didn't know what was really going on. She didn't know really about Carrie's life. You know,
Mhm.
she had no clue what she was getting into with her. You know, because at first she was like, you know, hey, come on, what's the problem? Just deal with it. You know, and plus she's frustrated because that class is just full of bitches.
Yeah, they really. I mean, all the girls in there, man. I'm like, wow. I'm like, even the. I mean, no offense within the context of the film, but even the kind of nerdy girls are real bitchy to Carrie. I mean, it's like pecking order. Carrie's on the bottom. I mean, that poor girl.
But
And,
how much of that could have been just her? Like we're seeing the movie through her interpretation,
Mhm.
her filter. So that's, I mean, it maybe they weren't as mean, because this is her first experience with that type of
Mhm.
reaction and stuff like that. Maybe that's why it was heightened and why everyone seemed very much over the top with their reactions to and their bullying. So
So you think since it's being told from Carrie's perspective, it might be just
intentionally done over the top, kind of.
exaggerated.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
I
to
don't know. I mean, you see random walls with the phrase "Carrie White eats," you know.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But she might be it might be self hate, from her having a mother like that. I can easily see someone just thinking that, and I've had bad experiences in my life where I felt really really small, a blarg, even. Uh, and,
look at
and
that with the callback to the doo-doo jokes.
yeah.
Little
But
Eddie
and then
mentions it, yeah.
and you just start doubting, and you start seeing things like, and you start beating up on yourself, and you start hating the thing, and and it's just one of those things that you could interpret the film that way if you chose to.
Yeah, and in terms of screenwriting, the more awful you make the people, the hardcore you can be when you kill them.
Hmm.
You
True.
know?
And
That is
people will feel okay with it.
that
Yeah.
is true. You really, it is a great setup for later on when we get to the epic prom scene, because there you want these people dead. I
Oh, I'm
mean,
laughing at that. I'm sorry.
I
You
mean,
know they were
no,
cheering for Carrie in the theater, man.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're supposed to. I mean, you cheer for Carrie. I mean, when you see that she has telekinesis powers, like that scene in the principal's office where
Mhm.
she flips the ashtray. You just want her to throw that ashtray, don't you, Angelique?
Oh, absolutely. That he was not listening. He was not even there, and calling her the wrong name. Oh no, no, no.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, some shit's gonna go down. You totally want her just to unload. And yeah, that gym teacher, she never and I think she's supposed to be that way on purpose. But even at the end, the gym teacher just never feels like she's doing it for Carrie. It's almost like she's doing it because she feels she is obligated to, but she's not actually doing it because she really wants to help Carrie. Or am I off on that at all with her, Andrew?
Oh well, I mean, Stephen King was a teacher before he was a famous novelist or whatever, and I believe parts of Carrie may have been the result of stuff that he actually saw and kids that he had guilt about not doing more for in terms of being able to help them, and so knowing that, you kind of feel like he may be working through a few things as far as in that particular character, some
Sure.
conflicting feelings. Should I have done this, or mad at himself for not doing this, and therefore working through all of that. I have not read the book since I was a kid, so I can't speak to that. But just knowing that King was a teacher and that Carrie is based on real people.
Hmm.
It's too for a guy to write it. He can't have just known these things. Just in terms of I think that there's kind of it's a pretty complex character and a complex interaction between the two of them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, she is a bit hard. I think was one of the harder characters for me to get a read on. Otherwise, everybody else you kind of are able to. Piper Laurie plays Carrie's mom. Oh my God, Angelique, how do you feel about Carrie's mom and how she was played by Piper Laurie?
She was terrifying. Every
Hmm.
minute, just that imposing, awful, judgmental presence. And I mean, oh no, I would run away. I would have to run away. There, mm-mm. I mean, my mom was strict, but damn, you know,
I
I
know.
didn't have a closet, you know.
You did. Paul, you remember Piper Laurie's Margaret White? I mean, she's a very memorable.
Oh, definitely memorable, and I think it's how I mean, you always hear trivia about her saying that she always thought it was a dark comedy, that
Mhm.
she didn't think that this was supposed to be a scary horror type movie, and I think that was important for that character to be in this kind of weird mode, and I think it came across in her performance. It just was amazing performance, and definitely, like you said, a memorable one.
Well, I think if her character, take her exact character and put it in a lighter film, you would be laughing your butt off. But the
Yeah.
fact that the film starts off serious and keeps that serious tone throughout, her over exaggeration at first, what is kind of comical, is scary, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, there's parts in the movie, and when we get to that ending, I guess we'll need to address
Yeah.
some of Piper Laurie's dramatic choices. But man, I mean, like, I did not grow up with religious stuff at all, but I had friends whose family were just like, they wouldn't let them come to my house. There was one who's like, your mom has to ask my mom if I can come over. I'm like, what in fuck's name is going on over there, And so, for her to put somebody like this on screen, it's amazing to me because thinks she's being over the top and she thinks she's playing it kind of comedically. People really like that, man. That's just
Yep.
that's real as hell.
Well, that's what I picked up when I was watching it. Was like, I watched that documentary after I watched the film, and I'm like, wait, you were thinking you were playing it comical? I'm
Or
like,
campy,
I'm
little-
like, I know people like that.
there are some human-ass cartoons walking around.
I have seen people like that. So for me, I'm just like, wow. And what I want to know is, where did the White family, Carrie and Margaret, where do they buy their crucifix from? Because that crucifix in the closet, Paul, you remember with the glowing eyes? Is that not the scariest freaking crucifix ever?
Yes, but again, if you follow in that belief that it's her mind filtering it, yeah, maybe, But yeah,
Glowing
it's
eyes.
glowing eyes. I know.
To keep you from touching yourself when you go in the closet. You look at Swap Meet Jesus and you're like, whoa, never mind.
It could have been different. It could have been like Elvis or something.
Swap meet Jesus.
Yeah, no, Elvis would probably do it for me in a pinch.
No way.
No way. Come on, Elvis
God.
58.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that then.
Yeah.
Comeback special Elvis, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah. But not Elvis, Jesus. She's got a picture of
Swap
Jesus
Elvis.
even in her bedroom, though, in that mirror shot in the background. I loved how he never let up that imagery. It appeared to be in every room of the house. Even in her room above her bed. I think that was
Yep.
Jesus looking down on her. Was it, Angelique?
Yeah, I think it was Jesus with lambs.
Yeah. With
Yeah.
the he had the crown of thorns on, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really great picture to have in your. I mean, that's like the only thing on her wall.
Mm.
Shit didn't come out of Tiger Beat.
No, No, it didn't.
The gospel according to Tiger Beat.
Yeah. So the Piper Laurie and Carrie, I mean, Carrie was fantastic in this. Sissy Spacek was just, I, you know, I hate to bring it up, but there was the remake, and I do love Chloe Grace Moretz, but it was really hard for me for them to sell her as the mousy kind of girl at the bottom of the pecking order. But
Yeah.
man, Sissy Spacek in this, Andrew, how'd you feel about her through this whole film? I mean, her
I'm a,
performance in here.
I'm a big fan of her. I love Badlands. Really love Three Women by Robert Altman. She's just very dynamic because she does not look like she can do what she can do. And I don't know why I say that, but I know the Carrie character, and Angelique brought this up, and this is a good point to make, is that I don't believe Carrie was a thin person. I don't, but you know, in school they'll pick on you no matter what you look like. You get brought through the ringer. It doesn't matter, you know. But the thing about those women is that in Carrie, they all look older than they're supposed to be. They all look mid-20s, some pushing 30. But Sissy Spacek manages to somehow, even though she's around the same age as the rest of them, she just makes it seem, she plays it just like an arrested, stunted, sheltered. She does all of that so great. And a lot of it is just that body language and some of the way they shoot her. But man, she can just play that that innocence like nobody's business. She's great at it. She's amazing at it. And those other characters in those other two movies, Terrence Malick's movie, Altman's movie, she kind of plays it that way too a little bit. And I don't know, man. Just one of the masters of the craft in the '70s. She was just doing some, you know what I'm saying? Like who else could have done that?
I don't think, especially back then, there was many people that could have pulled that role off that you wanted for it. That she brought to it. It was just, she's the title character, and man, does she just? I loved every scene she was in.
And wasn't she like refusing to have a double for anything? Like she was even like buried at the end and stuff. And
Yep. I was reading that in that scene that scared me for years, and it's still creepy. The old hand coming out of the grave. Oh man, that scene is so damn creepy. But yeah, she did that herself. They put her under the I guess it was pumice stone, and yeah, they had her reach out and grab her friend, and that was actually Sissy Spacek's arm. She didn't want anyone else to be posing as her. She wanted to do it.
At least she was exfoliating while she was down there.
Yeah, that's true. Now you get De Palma regular. Well, she was for a while. Nancy Allen in here as the villain, if you will.
Yes.
She was crazier than anybody, wasn't she, Angelique?
Oh, absolutely. She was just what all mean girls want to be.
Mm-hmm.
She was evil. She was an evil bitch.
Well, but she was just psycho too. You get that scene with her and John Travolta, her playing her boyfriend in the car, where she's like, "Here, let's make out," and then pulls his head away, and then makes out, and pulls her head, and he slaps her, he's going, "You are fucked up."
But he stayed in the car.
Well, yeah, of course he did, because
of what happened after. How can she speak perfectly his name at that scene? Come on.
God dang it, Paul! You beat me to the question.
Okay. That was your question.
Everybody has two sets of vocal cords.
I was just going to ask how can she talk with her mouth full?
Probably because it wasn't.
No.
Oh.
It's like a golf pencil down a mine shaft.
We are talking about Travolta, I guess, but if you read the tabloids. But anyway, that leads me, though, if anyone picks up on this, one of the things I loved about it, and especially watching it again, I didn't notice it because it's been years since I've watched this. I watched it when I was young, and now I've watched many, many more films since I first saw it. Man, the guys in this movie, from all the guys, are dumb. I mean, I mean, no, I mean, if you look at it though, even her Carrie's mom, and even the teacher, the gym teacher, and the mean girls, and Carrie herself, everybody, all the female roles in here, it is, and it stays female centric, which I'm going to get on my soapbox and on my lawn and say it is hard to find a film like this now where it stays like that. Andrew, I figure you'd be the perfect to ask that. Do you think that it does stay female strong throughout this film, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, man. And they are actually having real conversations with each other. They got things beyond just like catty rivalries, real conversations. They seem like, for all the kind of caricature and broad strokes that De Palma will take, they are real people dealing with each other for real. And that's the cool thing. The men are of little to no consequence. And typically the guy will be the catalyst for something or other, but they could, when it comes to going to the prom and all that with Tommy, it doesn't matter which one of those guys it was, you know what I mean? And Carrie's, the focus is never really on them, and I love that you mentioned that they were all dumb. There's that whole scene where he's showing them getting the tux and all that, and that would be considered the fun and games portion of the screenplay, where you get to kind of have fun and kind of just mess around a little bit, and lighten things up a little. Again, playing those really smart dynamics that De Palma is doing. Keep in mind he had Sisters and Phantom of the Paradise, two very different movies to kind of work his style out before he did this one. And God, you watch Carrie and you watch them talk to each other, and you're just like, damn, man, women are not, dude, they are not doing this usually in movies. Even now, they don't let them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Angelique, what did you think? Did you feel that it stayed pretty female centric, and that they were pretty much the strong core of it, and the guys
Oh,
were pretty?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were simply pawns. You
Mm-hmm.
know, women were driving every aspect of this story, be it Carrie, be it Margaret White, be it Chris Hargensen, be it Sue Snell. They were the ones at the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
And, all these guys, they're just going to do whatever the girls say because boobs.
Because it was because of boobs. Because we have that scene where Travolta's driving along in his car, and his buddies drive up, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go get a brew or whatnot?" And he turns around, and what's the first thing he looks at? Boobs.
Damn titties.
And he's like, and then he just calmly goes, "Nah, man. Toss me a beer, but nah, I ain't going with you. I got boobs in the car, man." Because he's a teenage boy, so he's like, what the hell? I ain't gonna go hang with the guys when I got boobs in the car. What the hell? But and I love that shot. I mean, Travolta does that well. I mean, what is it, 76? So was he just hitting it big, or was this just before? I forgot when did
Welcome back, Cotter.
Yeah.
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 When he was, I mean, because they really have a whole bunch of great people in here that were just starting out. We mentioned Nancy Allen. PJ Souls is in here playing Chris's basically sidekick in here. You got just, Amy Irving. This whole cast was just
Edie
phenomenal.
McClurg, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many.
She's become an archetype, dude. I was watching a cartoon the other day. Somebody was doing an Edie McClurg voice for a character. It wasn't even her.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So I had mentioned it that I asked you if there was a topic that one of you may have you want to bring and have us talk about and not hear me babble so much. So Andrew, did you happen to have a topic or a question that we might not have covered that you would like to bring to the group?
Well, I just we we've covered a lot of things about character and about plot and all these other things like that. But me as a filmmaker, I like to get into the technical stuff a little bit, and I really like dig the way that Carrie has some really really awesome things about it. Not only with the special effects, but with the cinematography. A lot of that split diopter stuff that De Palma is known for. A lot of the way he chose to edit, there's split screens and all of that, and I know he couldn't use as much as he wanted to because, just for whatever reason, but, just kind of what they were able to achieve, in terms of effects and in terms of cinema, in comparison to the way that they do this kind of stuff now. When you think about just like in any big destruction scene. Let's take the prom scene for instance.
Hmm.
Um, they built that whole set and then just destroyed the crap out of it. But now, it would be all computer and stuff like that because obviously nobody has to build anything. If you make a mistake, there's no big reset or you go, well, we got one chance to do this, so it kind of makes sense. But isn't it kind of incredible? Isn't it kind of when you look at it going like, holy damn, you know what I mean? I just wanted to, get you guys' thoughts on Carrie as a technical achievement, from a film or just as an effects standpoint, how effective this is compared to, does it stack up or does it seem a little cheesy to you?
Paul,
The
from what you remember, go ahead.
Yeah, there was that one scene in the prom where the camera's kind of doing this weird like spinning thing. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that spot?
Oh, the dance scene where William
Yeah.
Pratt and
Yeah.
Carrie are dancing, and apparently they built a dolly around them, a dolly track.
A dolly
And
okay.
yeah, the camera was going one way, and they had to spin the other. And in the behind the scenes in the documentary, they mentioned about how they had to time their lines for when the camera was
was like-
passing.
Yeah, that like Andrew said, that sort of technical detail is just amazing.
Yeah, it's like Strangers on a Train, the carousel.
Mhm.
De Palma was a big Hitchcock fan.
The other thing was the pacing because he chose to slow down that the prom scene. After the pig's blood falls on Carrie, he purposely seems to slow it down. Where the rest of the movie seemed to really go pretty quick for me. Up to that point. And then it just added that much more extra wow.
Well, that was her fairy tale moment.
Mhm.
She finally had the guy there. The guy actually kissed her.
Yeah.
And suddenly they get nominated prom king and queen. I mean, this is like the dream thing, and then
Boom.
the blood. And
Just the laughing, the scenes where the kaleidoscope vision and then having focus on different people and then doing the like callbacks to what they had said to her, like she's remembering back. Oh my God.
yeah, it's a creepy scene. What about you, Angelique?
Well, I mean, just when she starts unleashing her fury, all those practical effects, the fire hoses, the sparks, the wires cutting loose, the things flying around, stabbing her mom. I am 100% a practical girl. I mean, CGI works, yeah, it's cool and all, but give me practical any day. And for 76, this is pretty freaking amazing.
It's creepy and it's visceral. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it's practical. I think we're all big fanatics of practical effects, and if anything, that's what really stood out for me watching this Carrie again, because I'd seen the remake, a couple of years ago, and that prom scene is what really stands out for me because the prom scene in the remake, and I hate to bring it up, but I have to for people to put into context, is there's a lot of CGI, and they play it up.
Yep.
Whereas the prom scene in the original Carrie felt more real, felt like that's what this girl with telekinesis who just broke, this is the way it would be. Nothing too fancy, not multiple not multiple hoses, getting all kinds of people in that. She's just taking out her rage in this weird trance.
Yep.
that Chloe tried to get it, but just Sissy Spacek just nails that creepy, like, oh, shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, she's got that 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, and she uses the fire hose, which apparently busted one of the eardrums of one of the actresses, PJ Souls, I think it is. She gets hit when she gets
full on hose right to the
Yeah,
head.
she gets nailed, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to, and apparently she did that, and it immediately broke her eardrum.
Well, it'd be like
Oh,
falling
geez.
off of a diving board on head
Mhm.
first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But I mean, the hose and everything, that practical effects is just, and man, when that back of that stage catches fire,
Yes.
I want to know what they doused that back of that stage with, because that thing just, I mean, it unfurled. I mean, we're talking hell, aren't we, Angelique? I mean,
Absolutely.
we've got this metaphor where she's gone to hell,
Hmm.
and
But
she's
she's
bringing.
the devil, though. She is in
Mhm.
charge.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and to get to Andrew's question with the cinematography, what caught me was the interesting use of the split screen in that film, where we get to see her face, and then you've got it broken up, kind of, where you see other things going on at the same time, and I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow, that really works there, and you don't really see that style too much anymore. But that was in the '70s. But I love that because you see her facial expressions the whole time, and you see her slam the doors on people, and you don't have a lot of it's not complicated in a lot of ways of what's going on, is it, Andrew? As far
No,
as
a
that
split
person.
diopter is just it's just a thing you put on your lens to
Mhm.
where you're screwing with the field, the depth, to where you can have, whereas you normally would have to choose which thing gets into focus, and you would kind of have to
Yeah.
do a rack focus, back and forth to keep, it allows you, quite voyeuristically, which is perfect for
Mhm.
De Palma anyway, to be able to see what's going on in two different places at once.
Right.
So you get all the information at the same time. It's kind of like in oh god, in Dress to Kill, where
Mhm.
there's the interrogation room happening, and you got Keith Gordon sings on the outside,
Mhm.
of the room, and he lets you see his expressions as this other thing's going on that he can actually see. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And what about you, Angelique? Not just with the two focus, but that framing where you actually have like three separate frame panels
Yes.
almost. Did that feel almost like a comic book almost?
Absolutely. I was sitting here thinking, just listening. I was like, man, it's like kind of like Creep Show. You've got the whole comic book thing where you've got simultaneous action going on. Just really, you know, kind of brings home the point. Shit
Mhm.
is going down.
And
They
it
do
doesn't.
that in Hulk, and nobody liked it though.
I loved Hulk, dude.
There
For
you go. See?
Ang
There
Lee's
you
the
go.
jam. I love the Hulk. I love that. It's one of the coolest editing ever. I love that movie.
Well, what I liked about that helped with the kaleidoscope and the POV and everything. We don't really leave. He doesn't let you leave Carrie's side for most of that prom scene.
Hmm.
I mean, you stick with her while she's setting things ablaze in the hose. But you know, thinking of that prom scene with the way they did it in the remake, they overdid it in the remake. In this one, De Palma does just the right amount to where things make sense. You know, the basketball hoop hitting the teacher, who you think might survive at the end, but she don't. Which made me wonder, what do you think the motivation was, Paul, with killing the gym teacher who was trying to be friends with her? I mean, she pictured her laughing, but what do you think kind of motivated that?
Honestly, I think they wanted to show that there was no direction in her anger. She was so angry that she would even hurt the people that she cared about, or that she could potentially care about, I should say. But it also might be that because the teacher wasn't very helpful, like you were
Mhm.
thinking, it could
Oh,
be that just kind of like, there you go, we got her
yeah.
too.
I
See,
would. She was about the only surprise character, but yeah, that does get the point across. Now that you mention it, that she really doesn't have any remorse for anybody in the
no,
gym.
that much anger,
Yeah.
just
But the way that's shot, yeah, the cinematography of De Palma in general, I mean, it's fantastic in this film, and you see his signature in here, and even films later on, and his two prior ones as well. He really has that unique style that I thought was really fitting for Carrie. It helped quite a bit with this film, where if I think you had a little more standard shooting, I don't think it would have been as effective. I mean, as simple as a scene in the gym where the gym teacher is punishing the girls, and we have Nancy Allen's character saying, "No, I'm not going to do this," and she's in focus, like Andrew was saying, and the gym teacher's in focus. It's like you can see what's going on the whole time. It's not like there's any vagueness to what's going on. So yeah, De Palma's style is fantastic, I think, in this film, and was very fitting. Definitely. Angelique, what about you? Were you able to come up with a question that we might not have covered yet for Carrie?
Well, not so much a question, just an observation. This
Sure.
this movie, the book was written by a man, the movie directed by a man, and I don't recall seeing many female names as far as the credits are concerned. But the way that they nailed the cruelty that women will inflict on each other, oh my God. I mean, we're nasty to each other. You think we're mean to men? Oh no, it's nothing compared to how we act towards our sister women. And the fact that, just the beginning, the menstruation scene, they're like a pack of wild dogs, just the weakest is going down. It was, you kind of feel bad. You're like, oh man, I really need to be better to my counterparts. But Carrie White just seemed to be one of those people that you instinctively just didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
We all have those people in our lives, but it was everybody. She had this scent about her, and it made people turn mean and nasty. But they got what
Well,
was coming to them.
yeah, that they did. Yeah, it doesn't flinch. I mean, you're right. Now that you mention it, I'm trying to think of many. I mean, outside of films, kind of like Mean Girls and that, where they're intentional, but there they seemed over the top. But here, the what the conflicts or whatever between the females felt very authentic. What
Hmm.
about what about you, Paul? You think they felt authentic, and maybe it's not many newer films have been able to capture that, or I think they shy away from it.
I think they probably do shy away from it because it's one of those types of situations with the way things are nowadays with the political correctness. I think people are afraid to screw things up,
Hmm.
because the backlash would be so intense. So they shy away because they don't want to, like, well, if we screw this up, we're going to really get hated on.
Hmm.
So that's unfortunate, and I guess at this time, they're willing to try, nudity and go all out and menstruation on a film and all that stuff. They weren't afraid, and that was what's great about this film.
Well, I think this was a time in cinema where a lot of filmmakers, I mean, we see a lot of the classic, well-known filmmakers coming up around this time. It was a time of taking chances for that. What about you, Andrew? You think that it was more of a kind of I'd say, a more free time where people were trying more ambitious things, and say maybe they do quite so much now, at least for mainstream type cinema?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a really amazing time in American film, and will never be duplicated because you can't strike that kind of lightning twice. Once it happens, young people finally getting to tell stories and getting the money and getting the studio backing. I highly recommend reading Easy Riders, Raging Bulls if you'd like to know more. It's an amazing book. Peter Biskin's the author. I've read it several times. It's just you think about it, going like, God, I wish this could happen again. But the thing is, it happened already. So if you're wishing it would happen again, go back to those movies and watch them. They never get old. Something like Carrie never gets old. But also, there still was some fear, going on. The fact that they cast people that were so much older all the time playing teenagers in movies. It's not that there weren't young actors around. It's just that people cannot deal with seeing actual kids doing the things that kids really do. Think about the hate
Yeah.
that Larry Clark's movies get.
Hmm.
There's nothing in there that is, as far as like the movie like Kids or Bully, there's nothing in there that's some fantasy going on. That's what actually happens. The craziest thing that I ever heard of kids doing, like in the gym or the locker rooms or whatever, was not a fight that boys had, but something that a female did when I was in school. I did not see it because I was not in the girls' locker room, but female friends of mine told me that there was this girl who we were not required to take showers. Unless you were gross and funky, the school uniform and shower thing was not a thing at our school. It wasn't for whatever reason. Didn't have to do it. It was fine. But there was one girl who would get ass naked and take a shower, even though none of the other girls were, and she was punking everyone while she was doing it. And she was bigger than everybody else, like as in like tall. She looked grown. She just didn't look like, you know what I mean? She looked like she would have been a teacher or something like that. She just
Hmm.
looked like she was taller than everybody. She was just a very mature looking person, and she was in there just being mean as shit to everybody while she was naked. She was a bully naked. I mean, it blows
Wow.
my mind today to think about that.
Want more
Um,
power?
yeah, dude, I have no idea what the story was. I will probably always wonder. A filmmaker friend of mine actually put that in one of his movies because when he heard the story, he couldn't forget it. Um, but I still, for all that those movies get credit for as far as risk taking and stuff like that, I still feel like Carrie did pull some punches there. And when it came time to do other versions of it, either sequels or remakes, I still feel like they didn't even talking about the most famous remake, because I kind of enjoy the TV one with
Hmm.
Angela Bettis, although
Yeah.
she's kind of like putting Jack Nicholson in The Shining. She looks crazy from the beginning, and you suspect, even if you've never heard of Carrie, like that bitch is gonna go crazy. You know what I mean? But so I still feel like there's room for someone to do Carrie, um, just full out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Having her look like she did in the book, having it end like the book ended, and having kids, actual age appropriate actors, be awful to each other. I think there's still room for that to happen.
I think so too. But I will say that I do enjoy the portrayal, and it's hard to find newer films portraying even what De Palma did though with Carrie. But yeah, it does feel there are a few scenes in here and a few things you think that he could have even gone further with. But I think it was his first real commercial project, so I think I'm wondering just how much of a risk he was willing to take.
Yeah,
You
there was a
know?
lot of wild shit in there, and
Yeah.
having Piper Laurie basically orgasming as she's dying. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
that's quite unusual even today. You're just like,
Come
oh,
on. She was receiving all of the wounds of the
she's
cross.
she's finally coming after all
Well,
this.
well, she was stabbed just like the creepy ass. What would you
Saint,
call it?
whatever his name is.
Flea market Jesus or
Oh, I don't.
Yes.
Not
Swap
did I
me,
say that?
Jesus. Yeah.
swap
Swap
meet
meet
Jesus?
Jesus.
She gets killed exactly the way swap meet Jesus is stabbed in the closet.
Yeah, but isn't that what the conservatives want, to be martyred? Just like the grandma and the mother-in-law and the ref.
Hmm.
What he
Hmm.
says.
Well, yeah, I think she does. I think that's why she takes pleasure because she's finally off, shuffled off this mortal coil with all these sinners, and she feels, hey, I'm finally going to where I've always wanted to go, but I couldn't do it myself because that's a sin.
Well, not only that, but I've told everybody for years my daughter's is evil, and look now, I was right.
Yeah.
So she thinks.
So she,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. But and then Carrie bringing that. I mean, the final solution in the movie is we basically Carrie gets buried with her mother in the house. Do we take that route because that's the only solution we could come up with? Because even though Carrie was getting her, revenge, she still did bad things. Angelique, did we have to kind of have her buried at the end in order because of the things she did?
Well, I mean that's the book ending as well. Yes, she's getting her revenge, but she is still this wounded, innocent Christian little girl, and she just broke the first, the first, whatever, second commandment, honor thy father and thy mother. So she just broke that. She's got to atone.
So they got to bury her. I mean, she has to kind of die at the end.
Well, I mean, mother was dead. She
Yeah.
was protecting her mother.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she does kind of protect her, doesn't she? Even though she's all stabbed and.
Yeah, I mean, she's gone, but I
Christian.
mean, still, you know.
Paul, what about you? Did you have anything that you wanted us to maybe touch on that we haven't already?
Yeah, I was wondering. This is more to find out more about ourselves. I was
Uh-oh.
wondering if we would think back to high school, and think about how we were back then. And I was wondering what group, kind of represented in this movie, would you identify with the most? Are you the awkward? Are you the victimized? Are you the alpha? Are you the pack follower? maybe the overprotective parent type, or the sympathetic friend, or the neglectful administrator, or maybe even the punished. I was just kind of seeing which one would you kind of identify. And I know most people would say they're a combination, but is there one group of people in this movie that you would say, hey, I was kind of like that in high school?
Wow, way to get all Barbara Walters up in this joint. Okay. I'll go first.
Okay.
It's tough because I did have friends,
Mm.
but I would probably lean closest to Carrie
Mm.
as far as the group goes, because I did have friends, but my group of friends, some of the friends I had both traveled in the popular groups and not, and I was acquaintances with many people who were the more popular kids. But if you want to talk about relating to, as far as the people in there, yeah, Carrie. Not to that extreme,
Right.
but I will say that Carrie probably was close. I related a lot to her character, the most probably, in that, just from the way I was in childhood. Not to her extreme, but
Yeah.
if you had to gauge, yeah, it was probably closest to Carrie. Angelique, what about you?
Oh, I was definitely a Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
I moved around a lot. My father was in the Marine Corps when I was in high school, and my sophomore year I moved 3 times. And the last coming from a place, I was at Parris Island, South Carolina. We're used to people coming and going all the time. So there's always somebody new, and you kind of take them under your wing. Then we moved up to Tennessee, where everybody's known each other since the womb. And here's this new person, and like nobody will talk to you or have anything to do with you, and they'll talk about you while looking at you but not actually engage you. So yeah, definitely a Carrie.
Well, and Carrie took place in a small town, so accurate portrayal then.
I'm
Andrew,
one bad period away.
Oh, dude,
oh, God.
that was so good.
Wow.
Oh, hell yeah.
Andrew, how about you, sir?
I wasn't a Carrie, but I collected people like her, I guess. I was an art student, so we kind of we would stay in the art room, so we would not have to deal with places where the bullies would be. And we would just, talk about Fangoria and comics and listen to music and shit and draw and paint. And so that was always like a kind of a refuge for us. But anytime we'd see someone getting picked on, my group, even though we were just the misfits or whatever, we rolled pretty deep. So like we would just be like, it was easy to jump in front of somebody getting messed with like that. And I can remember it was a guy at school who. After I'd shown one of my movies in class, he really dug it, and we started talking. And after that, the teacher goes, "I just want you to know that he recently tried to kill himself, and so be really careful with him." And I was just like, God, I was like maybe 12 or whatever. So next time I talked to him, I was like, "The teacher said you tried to kill yourself, man. What happened?" And he was like, really happy to talk about it. He's like, "Oh, I didn't die. I just bled a lot," and we are still like close to this day, man. So it was really just kind of more of just like if you know what it's like to be picked on and have an awful time, you either as a retaliation become mean and shitty and do it to other people so you can have some power, or you just go like, "Come over here with us, man. You'll be cool. We'll watch out for you." So that was kind of what we did. That's what I did.
Cool.
That's really great.
That is great. Paul, how about you, sir?
I was actually a pack follower.
Really?
If you look in the yearbook, I did as much stuff as all of my friends I could possibly do. I was like in every single club that I could do, and I never really excelled in any of them. I was never the alpha in any of those things, and I just kind of wanted to fit in with everybody. I was this awkward guy that really wanted to be in everybody's group, but when it came down to friends, I only ever had the real 2 friends that I ever like spent time with, and they became my roommates, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
So yeah, well, that was me in high school.
That was you. So yeah, that's a great question, Paul. And I think we're going to wrap it up here for the evening. We've talked about this film, a film that I think stands the test of time. I really do. Watching this again, there wasn't anything really that truly dates it. I mean, outside of the clothing, maybe, and those tuxes.
Oh,
Angelique,
yes.
how about you? Do you feel this film kind of stands the test of time a little more than, say, some others?
Absolutely. I mean, even more than the remake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw it, and even then, I was just like, no, this isn't. No, nope. The original for the win.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Paul, how about you? You think it stands the test of time, and it's still not only prevalent today, but it's still a good film today?
Oh yeah, we still always will struggle with bullying and self identity. Those things are going to be universal themes for anybody growing up. And this movie does a good job of focusing on that. The sequel, the reason why that's a little bit different is because they chose to do the bullying more with technology, and that's
Right.
going to cause it to be dated. Unlike this movie, which really focused on the bullying aspects and just kind of trying to fit in and discover who you are, because they focused on the theme. That's what makes it timeless.
Though, I mean, they were using the technology part to try to, I think, touch with the younger crowd.
Exactly,
But
but
you're
you
right.
need
That does then date it. They didn't necessarily need to use
Mhm.
that as, I guess, the main bullying technique, because in-person bullying is definitely always there in
Yes.
schools, regardless of what you might think. It's still there. How about you, Andrew? You think it still holds up?
Yeah, man, because you got to think about how claustrophobic the movie is, how very few places they go, how very few settings there are, and it really captures the worldview of a teenager, which is like this is all there is. This is life. This is the way things are always going to be. The world of a kid is really small and really kind of like, everything's so immediate and like it just everything that sucks seems like it's always going to suck and it seems like the end of the world. And I think they're smart to play the movie that way and keep it that way because, like Paul said, there's things that's always going to be universal about adolescence, and it was wise of them to, even though some of the music sounds funny and like we say, the hair and the clothes and stuff like that, it's still considered a classic because the overarching things are things that are always going to be issues with kids.
Yep.
And it's a pretty doggone scary movie too.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I just wish the ending, instead of the hand coming out of the ground, it would have came out of Stu Snell's vagina. That would have been just like choking her mom.
Wow, that would have been totally different interpretation to the ending than where that.
I'll give my information, Hollywood. At the end of the thing, you can contact me.
Contact Gonzorific
Please
for
hold
that.
$1 million people. Please hold.
So we're gonna wrap it up here tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed our conversation about Carrie, and if you haven't seen the original '76 version, I suggest you go out and see it, and hopefully we whet your appetite to go see it and didn't spoil everything for you about the film. But it is a film that I feel bad for not watching sooner, more often, because it is a really solid film. It's got more weight to it than the remake in a lot of ways, and I think that has to do not only with the screenplay but the direction of De Palma. So we'll go down real quick, give a final thought or whatnot on Carrie, if you have anything else to say, and then where they can find you at. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, hey everybody! Look, man, if you haven't seen Carrie, the original Carrie, you are no horror fan. You are no cinema fan. It is an incredible film. You got to check it out. And if you haven't watched it because you're some kind of snob and think it's just some lame horror, Brian De Palma, let me give you a few of his credits. I mentioned Sisters and Phantom of Paradise. Phantom is probably my favorite. After Carry the Fury, Dress to Kill, Blowout. Come on, Scarface, Body Double. What were we talking about today, Mark? What were the Untouchables?
Untouchables, yeah.
I like Raising Cain.
Mhm.
20 years after Carrie did the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So the guy just knows how to make good movies, man. So check that out. Whether or not I know how to make good movies, I don't know. But if you like movies where women actually talk to each other about things besides a man or a wedding or a baby, www.gonzorific.com. We do have a lot of menstrual related things. Some would say too many. Uh, our one coming up this year, Flow Day the 13th. I am not kidding. You can see the stills from it on our
Yes.
Facebook page.
Oh my god.
There's one part where she's like, they're throwing tampons at the period monster, and she's like, and she has a bottle of pills, and she's like, well, what's that? And she goes, it's ibuprofen. It does nothing. I cannot take credit. I didn't write it or direct it, but still. Anyway, and,
wow.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
yeah, YouTube has a lot of our old short films on the Gonzorific channel, and Amazon On Demand has several of our for rental: Pajama Nightmare, Mondo Gonzo, the Underground Cinema, and the new one, Late Night Cable.
Awesome. And go ahead, Paul.
You can find out information about me at WordPress, Facebook, and Twitter at Forsaken Film Reviews. And if you have some time, really, really would appreciate it if you take a look at the website for the North. I can't say North.
Mark's gonna edit you, man. It's a little bit cool.
Okay, I'm going to say that again. And when you do have some time, I would really appreciate it if you check out the Northeast Wisconsin Horror Film Festival's website at newhorrorfest.com.
Awesome. And Angelique, you have any final word on Carrie and where they can find you at?
Well, I mean, just like you're beholden to show Rosemary's Baby to your best friend who's just announced she's pregnant. If you're, if you have access to a young female who's just coming into her own, it's a good idea to show them Carrie, just to show that, you know what, you can come out on top.
And that you'll be a better parent.
But as far as where you can find me in my dirty pillows on Facebook. You can also find me and a bunch of other really cool cats at thelosthighway.com, where we do B-movie reviews and things such as that.
And as I mentioned before, you can also catch actually all these lovely people occasionally on the Astro Radio Z podcast hosted by Mr. Derek Carey. Excuse me, Andrew's on there. They actually just finished up with a John Waters episode, which
was crazy.
Which was crazy. But there's a lot of great stuff there on Astro Radio Z podcast, so check them out. All these lovely people are there. And if you're curious at all about my stuff, go to specialmarkproductions.com, one-stop shop for all your Mark the Movie Man needs, as well as our archive for the podcast. You can subscribe to the RSS feed there, find some other great things as well. We got some great things coming up. Got a 10th anniversary coming up for my YouTube channel. Yes, I've been old man of the internet, so to speak. And so I'm planning some things hopefully for that. And yeah, we appreciate you listening in the Spoiler Room. Hope you enjoy. Please comment, subscribe, like, all those fun things on iTunes. It helps us get noticed. We're also on Stitcher Radio and the Google Music podcast section. We're on there now as well. I want to thank everybody here for joining us tonight in the Spoiler Room, where the conversation is fresh, but we do spoil the movies. Now say goodnight, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Plug it up.